What it be like?
What's happening, man?
Welcome to Sunday night service. You don't like my intro?
It's already one of those nights.
You don't like my intro?
I love it. What it be like?
I've been churchy all day, man. I gotta come down.
I
gotta come down, man.
Just that ghetto. Do ghetto Todd today.
There's no such thing.
Todd.
There's no such thing as ghetto Todd. There is no such thing. But welcome to Religiously Incorrect Podcast.
Y'all be on the lookout. I got a memory on my Facebook of Todd playing the piano at Agape. I'm gonna repost it. He was killing too.
I got a memory of you wearing the Steelers jersey, waving a terrible child.
I don't ever remember that.
Cheering for Ben Roethlisberger. So we can swap memories.
On that same memory is when Christian was doing breakdancing
on the floor.
He had the Band-Aid on his head.
That was hilarious.
How y'all doing tonight, y'all? How y'all doing out there?
Welcome to Sunday night service. This is your Sunday night therapy, Religiously Incorrect Podcast.
Brought to you by the African American Community Fund. The African American Community Fund, established in 2020 at the Foundation for Appalachian Ohio, supports Black-led and Black-serving organizations throughout the 32 counties of Appalachian Ohio to elevate the quality of life and address disparities in African American communities. Check them out at www.appalachianohio.org, 740-753-1111. Listen, man, I got to see him last week.
You got to see Ernest Bynum last week?
Ernest Bynum was killing it,
the
Doc.
Legendary.
He told everybody. I mean, you ain't want to be Caucasian in that room.
Listen, I was just about to say we need a new sponsor. We need the Caucasian American Community Fund. Dedicated to making America great again.
Hey, he was for real. I like that.
Ain't nobody studying your time, man. I preached tonight about Kairos time, so that's my excuse. This is a special divine moment. So we're not bound by your clocks, where the Spirit of God is leading.
Hey, Sister Carletta.
How y'all doing?
Elder Carter, Brother Greg, God bless you all.
Everybody.
Good to see you guys.
I know Mother Marsh is probably lurking in there somewhere. So how you doing, Mother? And yes, this is as close as I'm getting to resting right now. It is what it is.
Hey, get your rest.
Thank you so much, Sister Williams. Appreciate it. That's our Union Baptist sister.
Mm-hmm. So I see Carla on. I heard everybody at Second got saved.
Yeah, they all got saved again.
Yeah, they all got saved.
Yeah, they weren't really saved under me.
She done baptism and everything.
Yeah, they were.
He wasn't there.
She brought her own water. She brought her own water.
They all got saved and they dress better now.
She slayed it today.
She slayed.
I believe it.
I believe it. I do. I did not watch, but I heard many, many good reports, and I'm very proud. It's good to have capable ministry staff. Some people you got to cross your fingers and just hope.
You just hope
and pray they don't all turn Muslim next week or something.
Pastor Harrison will say, "Can I hope you tonight?"
Listen,
can I hope you?
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for stepping in. And yes, I'm a little tired. I'm going to crash after this. Pastor Tatum, what happened to the Knicks? What happened in New York today? I was actually rooting for them. They deserve one. I mean, Michael ain't playing no more, so I don't mind if they get one. And
either
I was
Steph
really
Curry.
So. But you know what they say? There's no last generation player left in the playoffs except for Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
So I guess he is right.
I'm happy for Kyrie though. I like Kyrie.
The earth is flat and vaccines don't work. So Kyrie won.
Y'all got all them vaccines for no reason.
All the vaccines for no reason.
Vaccine
if you
one,
took the vaccine, you'd still be in the playoffs.
It's about to be one of them nights. I can tell.
13.
One of them nights.
All 13 strands is fake.
That tired, goofy stuff. Okay, exactly. Well, let's just jump right in. First things first. I think we should start calling the segment this. First things first.
First things first.
Diddy is done.
Before you even go, because I don't believe he's done. He paid the woman off. He paid the woman, and it's over the statute of limitations.
But
it's a wrap, bro.
He's done in the court of public opinion.
Well, yeah, now that he is done.
He's done.
Well, I think he's been done.
He was done. Yeah, I mean, he's been done. But how about all the people that we're talking about, which happens a lot, but this one was especially poignant to me, to be honest. For just a quick, serious moment out of our tired goofiness. There were a lot of people saying that something was wrong with his whole setup for a while. Jaguar Wright,
R&B singer. They've been saying it for a long time.
There are a couple others, and they always got pushed off as like washed up, kind of thing. And I mean, it's all more true than we want it to be. I mean,
and
it's insane.
Once again, since we're staying serious, as a person who witnessed domestic violence, that was for real. I mean, to drag a person, not only drag them, kick them, then throw stuff at them and that little fake apology he done was that wasn't gonna cut the mustard.
I mean, there's got to be an accountability, and I do believe that there are certain movements of where things can sometimes go too far, and you look for something in everything. Mm-hmm. This is not one of those times, and I don't think it's the only one. This goes back to early hip hop, Death Row, Tupac. Was abusive.
You don't just start beating on women,
and
that was not his first woman he beat, and it probably won't be his last unless he finds himself.
And maybe this deserves its own show, but will all the hip hop heads be willing to admit that maybe all the complaints that were made in the early days when they were talking about it being objectifying to women and abusive to women, will they admit that those critics were right?
Absolutely.
Because the stories are just now coming out, but I feel like we're so protective of the art form and it's ours. And I do feel, as I say all the time, there's a couple poisons that affect the black community. I'll call it, toxic black humility, toxic black politeness, and toxic black protectionism, where we want to protect our own so bad that we will walk with the R. Kellys and the Bill Cosbys and the Diddy's of the world. And it's a little different. It's the same shaming that goes on everywhere else, whether it's slut shaming or trigger shaming. Like, what did you do to trigger him? There was actually people commenting that stuff. What did she do? Like, this ain't the whole, Cass is on there like, this ain't the whole video.
We don't want to believe that our people that we've sang and that we've bought and that we've paid money for and that we've went to concerts, we don't want to believe that they could actually be these same people.
But it's difficult. It's deeper than that too, because they're like our ultra successful renegades. They bucked the system doing it their way. They brought black culture, good and bad, to the forefront and made millions off of it. And we're almost like toxically proud of the fact that they did this, but we're like ignoring what we all know goes with it. And the reason we know it is because we watch it and we live it.
I'm going to be honest, and I don't know about you, Mike, and I don't know if you saw it, but when I watched the Michelle A story, I didn't believe it.
You didn't believe it?
I didn't believe that Dr. Dre could do that.
I believed it.
But it's obviously
about killing people. I mean, what's the
well, it's a whole lot of people that rap. Will Smith rapped about killing people.
No, he didn't. He rapped about bubblegum and cotton candy and I love my wife. We're a two-parent household. Will Smith was
your favorite rap. Well, back in West Philadelphia.
Right. When your best rap you ever produced was a song jingle, you're not a good rapper.
Parents just don't understand.
Parents don't understand.
You got two of them.
Mad about doing his best.
That was the first black man to get a Grammy. Leave Will alone.
I'm proud of him. It was bubblegum.
I Am Legend.
First hip hop Grammy.
It was CCM. This is Maverick City rap. That was Ron Canoli rap. Sandy Patty rap. All right, y'all. It was sad. I appreciate y'all. I am going to get some rest. My eyelids are shut. And thank you, Sister Alicia. I appreciate it. Appreciate all your good, kind words. Yeah. I don't have a voice. Thankfully, I don't have to tune up.
You got to tune.
I be telling people to put me in Z flat.
You got to modulate.
I be sounding like Jeff up here. I mean, every key. Known to man. But no, to be serious, Diddy is done. I thought the dude was weird for a long time. He had a trail of like bad business deals with people. You had a lot of people sending out hints, I should say, that he, had done them wrong. They had seen things. Mace had been, down that road. Craig Mack, remember that tragic tale? And
oh yeah.
And then but here's the other side. Like, people can't just be wrong. It has to turn into like Illuminati.
Yeah.
Sacrificing always. People and all that. No, people are just rotten people.
Absolutely.
How about that? They're rotten people. They're abusive. They're greedy. They exploit their brothers and sisters. But then we celebrate them because they make hits, and they're part of our nostalgia and upbringing. And honestly, Bad Boy was my sound.
For me, they never made no hits. Like,
I was a bad boy kid, man.
Done. They was
I was
garbage.
a bad boy kid. Mace, the
I was
Locks.
a Tupac kid.
No, I was Notorious B.I.G. I was a bad boy because my brother was on the East Coast in Baltimore.
West Side for life.
So that was
West Side for life.
And I like the shiny suits, man.
Dear Mama.
Dear Mama. Nah, Dear Mama, I did. I like Tupac, but I'm saying I like the shiny suits, man, and the rap seemed
that ripped them red.
It seemed harmless. It was not quite bubblegum as Will Smith, but it wasn't like I want to kill every police officer I see like West Coast, because that's where y'all was at.
It was all remakes too, though.
It was all remix.
It was all remakes. That's all he done was remakes.
I mean, all West Coast did was remix P-Funk. They just totally robbed James Brown and George Clinton.
I guess
Completely.
They done it better.
Bruh.
They done it better.
Bruh.
they did it better.
All right, all the old heads already know. All that stuff is.
I'm with you, Jeff. They did it better.
There it is, man. That's what I'm talking about, Minister. Bad boy. He knows what I'm talking about. Pastor Ben knows what I'm talking about. He knows what I'm talking about. It just is what it is. But I mean, it doesn't need to be said that domestic violence is wrong, but we have to talk about the power dynamics. And this is an honest truth. Things that have been like reckoned with sometimes when we see like what we think is mainstream, which basically means white, it ends up coming around to the black community and we don't know how to handle ourselves. I'm like, nah, go at this dude just like you would go at Harvey Weinstein.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just as horrific. It's just as terrible.
I think even though the time frame or the statute of limit is up, I think he still ought to suffer some type of consequences. And, you know, paying that girl off. And first of all, after what I saw, he didn't pay her enough.
$30 million. Okay, so I do ask this question. I want to end on this. Where these people's families at? She ain't got no dudes in her life with a gun.
I said
and I'm not advocating, by the way, but I'm just saying. I wonder about that, because if there were ever, and whenever I see those stories of a father or a brother or somebody avenging the abuse of a loved one, it could be sexual assault, but this, I'd be like, let that dude go.
Well, here's the thing. From coming from somebody who grew up in an abusive household,
right?
Oftentimes, the woman continues, or man, whichever one it is getting abused, continues to go back after you've tried.
You got to give something not to go back to.
After you've tried to fight the husband. And I'm just telling you, it's.
But I just feel like
sad.
if you were, and I know this sounds crass, but this is religiously incorrect.
It's like I'm not gonna keep on getting beat up for you, and you keep on going back.
I get it though, but let me just play devil's ghetto wannabe thug, black on black violence advocate. Of all the things a lot of black brothers are locked up for, usually absolutely dumb stuff, petty disagreements. I pull out a gun. I don't want to fight this, that, and the other.
Right.
I can live with a guy saying I went to jail because I shot the dude that.
Oh, I'm with you.
I'm just saying.
I'm completely with you. I mean, if somebody
put ourselves
I love
away
my son-in-law right now. I love my son-in-law to death. But if he hit my daughter, listen, you don't got to call the cops. I got this. I got this.
I'll unalive them and preach their eulogy. That'll open up my church. I mean, that's the trigger in me. I hope it never ever happens. I'm not saying anybody's cowardly or anything like that. But again, my mind works that way. You know, we're the same way about these racists, the Ku Klux Klan. I'm like, man, take a racist out. That's what you want to do. Why you take a brother out over some Nikes? If you want to go away for the rest of your life, remove some scum from the earth. That's all I'm saying. That's just Old Testament justice for you.
An eye for an eye.
It's a Babylonian justice for you. But I'm just saying, I'm not saying.
Beelzebub.
Again, I'm not advocating. I don't want people to do terrible things, but it's not so terrible if it's somewhat justified, because the criminal justice system don't seem to work, especially in cases like that.
Yeah, I mean. Bill Cosby is gone.
Bill said, I'll knock the you know what out of you and put heaven on your mind. Listen, sometimes you got to lay hands in a different kind of way.
Well, Bill Cosby served his time. R. Kelly, I don't think R. Kelly gonna get out. And
it's become like a Mount Rushmore of famous black abusers. And what everybody say the same thing. They were just about to buy NBC. Somebody said Diddy was about to buy Tubi. The joke is every time a black man gets ready to do something real powerful, he gets accused of something.
Accused of something, yeah.
But we all know that's not true. I mean, they're just bad people. And we got to stop protecting them out of black loyalty. I mean, I'm just not with it. Yeah, and I don't care what your color is. Of course, I feel like we live in an unjust world, but that doesn't change you're wrong.
Eminem ain't go to jail.
Eminem, what do you do?
No, I'm just making stuff up now. I'm just making stuff up.
About to get a cease and desist letter from Marshall Mathers. All right, y'all. Y'all know what time it is. It's time for that meme of the week.
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
Welcome to Religiously Incorrect, ladies and gentlemen.
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
Thank you. Send us your memes of the week.
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
We are, these are all jokes. We are just playing.
All right, so you guys know that some of our favorite memes are video memes, and they're memes of things that happen in church. I have the long-standing opinion that church scenes in TV, in movies, are just completely unnecessary because nothing is funnier than the real thing. I don't care what Tyler Perry or Steve Harvey or whoever can come up with. You have not. We were going to get to that.
We were trying to get to it. We ain't have time.
We were going to get to it, Dave.
We might come back there, Dave.
I got like 3 versions ready. It might even be loaded up on the iPad, ready to go. But the bleach blonde, butch-built body, it has been made into multiple memes, by the way.
It has, several.
But this one has happened everywhere. You're not a church person if you have not been in a church where somebody makes up a song.
It's the song of the Lord.
On the spot. It's not even song of the Lord. Who
the wind is blowing.
Jeff despises song of the Lord's. I hate Flag Ministries. I'm joking. I don't hate them.
Yes, you do.
I just pretend to hate them for the
yes, you do.
Purpose of this show.
Flags and mimes.
For the purposes of this show. I enjoyed your daughter and Nyla.
I mean, she was dancing real hard right in front of you. She's like, you gonna like this, mom?
Dance, stop, and shake.
She's like, you gonna like this, mom, Todd?
Is she doing the black belt or something? What's going on here? All right, so this is a funeral service, by the way.
Oh, Lord.
And you know, what better place to make up a song on the spot than a funeral service? All right, let's go.
Singing, okay, it might be cute, but I sing in one of them. And it goes like this. Hell is hot. Ain't no water there. Oh, hell is hot. Ain't no water there. No ice, no tea, no lemonade, no Coke,
come on,
no Sprite, no Gatorade. Oh, hell is hot. Ain't no water there. Hell is hot.
Take back what I said.
Ain't no water there. No ice, no tea, no lemonade, no Coke, no Sprite, no Gatorade.
No Gatorade.
Hell is hot.
Hey, the bastard want to stop her right now. He want to stop her so bad.
This is terrible. Okay, I take back what I said. This is not a made-up song. She wrote that song and rehearsed it at home.
Hey, the audience is singing it.
They
picked it up.
I would be. I missed the end.
Regina made that up.
Regina made that up.
Wow.
Okay, so here's my question. What was incorrect about the song? It was completely biblically and theologically correct.
I think there's lemonade in hell.
You think there's lemonade? No.
There's some Mike's Hard lemonade.
No. There's lukewarm, unsweetened iced tea in hell. Like we get at all these banquets up north at these banquet halls where we all bypass the soda bar and everything because it's too expensive.
The pastor has no chill. He sure did. He's ready to cut her off.
She made that up. So I do believe there's well, okay. So what would be an appropriate drink in hell? I say lukewarm, unsweetened iced tea is probably the preferred drink in hell.
I say ginger ale.
Ginger ale?
Ginger ale nasty.
Wait a minute.
I can't drink Seagram's, none of it.
You
All
about
the
to get
ginger
fired.
ales is nasty.
Hey, Jeff's address is for
all ginger ale is
I
nasty.
have drank ginger ale on the set of this show.
Ginger ale is nasty. That's why they tell you to take it when you're sick, because it's nasty. It tastes just like medicine.
Ginger ale is a viable, refreshing drink for black people.
Got raspberry, that blackberry go hard.
And for black people.
And
What
it
does
is-
ginger have to do with black people?
Everything. It's like the official carbonated beverage medicine of black people. Did we establish this?
Boy, ain't nothing wrong with you. Get a little ginger ale.
Didn't we establish this at our mental health show? It's the answer to all of our ailments. Ginger ale. Okay, flat Sprite. That could be correct. Flat Sprite could be a drink available in hell. Which basically means people would rather burn than drink it. I mean, that's basically what we're saying.
Cranberry juice.
Cranberry juice.
Cranberry juice nasty too. It's nasty. Sorry.
Look at all the ginger ale lovers.
Canada Dry.
And that raspberry and blackberry go hard though.
Jackie likes Vernon's because she's from Detroit. She's a Vernon. Thank you.
Ginger ale is of God.
Thank you very much. If we ever ran out of communion juice, we just pass out ginger ale.
No.
That would be the acceptable alternative.
No, we
In
ran out
church.
of it was grape juice.
Grape juice.
No, we using red Kool-Aid.
Red Kool-Aid.
Red Kool-Aid
Okay.
for
With extra sugar.
With extra sugar.
Okay, back to the terrible song at this funeral. Okay, judging by the way the casket was turned, this was like one of those bishop funerals. Because, he was, they turn it and do all that stuff. And it almost feels like she came out and did a skit or something.
But why is she talking about hell at the
Is she
bishop's funeral?
insinuating that he didn't make it
right,
in?
that's what I'm saying.
What an insult.
Yeah.
Especially after all these murderers, we put wings on them and talk about fly high. Gucci.
there was no I Shall Wear a Crown.
No, I shall wear a crown.
What's Ben's favorite song?
My soul is anchored.
My Soul is Anchored.
That's right.
I mean, those
Put
are the
on my
songs you sing
robe,
at a
Tell
funeral.
the story, how I made it over, how I got over.
Yeah.
My soul looks back. No, none of that. Hell is hot.
What's the other one? What's the other one that Harrison It's Harrison and Simon like to sing. What's that one?
Don't say, oh man, not the one about you're the center of my joy.
No.
I won't complain.
I won't complain.
Oh, yeah, I won't complain.
That one. That you could have sung any of those.
I don't like that one either because it's just a song full of complaints, and the title of the song is "I Won't Complain." You ever listen to the lyrics to that song?
I don't even know.
I've had some good days. I've had some hills to climb. Sometimes the clouds hang low. And I'm like, are you ever happy? But I won't complain. You just got done complaining. You spent 3 minutes complaining. And now you're saying I won't complain. All right, so this comes out of that. Here's what it is, and we're done with this. This comes out of that. I got to warn people who are still living that to not go to hell, and I'm going to decide to do it at the funeral of your loved one.
Right.
And I'm going to tell all you people that this guy is in glory, and if you want to be in glory with him. But then they don't even talk about heaven. They just talk about hell.
She ain't singing at no more funerals, I can bet you that.
She might.
Not at that church.
She might.
She ain't singing
Not at that church?
funerals.
Not at that church.
No
I
more
bet you somebody
funerals.
calls her and
They don't want that. They don't want that.
hey, if that Jesus Christ popping locking dude got a deal and got invited to a church, Jesus Christ! If he can get invited to somebody else's church, I don't see why she wouldn't either. There's a market for everybody.
I guess.
Look her up on Apple Music, wherever you download music. If you have a meme you'd like to send in,
I know a couple churches that we take.
I know a couple churches that'll take you. Religiously Incorrect Podcast at gmail.com is the spot you want to send it to, or you can inbox us. Now, we're not ignoring you when you send the memes sometimes.
Yes, we are.
Sometimes we're ignoring you. But other times we've seen them. Like sometimes people saw them for the first time, but it's like a 5-year-old joint, and we probably used it on the show. We're kind of running out of memes ourselves. We might just start making them up ourselves and doing crazy stuff in church. I had a meme, but I couldn't use it because I love Reverend Wingfield. So,
Oh yeah, you talked about it.
I love
last
Reverend
week.
Wingfield and his members. So I hate when you go to church and have a memeable moment and now you can't use it. You can't use it. All right, y'all. We appreciate you guys tapping in, tuning in. We have a wonderful guest that we're going to be speaking one-on-one, or I guess 2-on-1 with, which would be more appropriate. But first, we want to thank our sponsors, the Phillips Family Care of Businesses. If you need your lawn care done, and you do, you know how raggedy your yard is. I am a council person. I ride around all the time, and your yards are a mess. You need to call Phillips Care Lawn Services. They are in business or have been in business for over a decade. They know exactly what they're doing. If it has to do with the outdoors, they can handle it. I know because I'm a satisfied customer. And while you're at it, check out Phillips Care Cleaning Services. They can take care of your residential, commercial cleaning needs, carpet cleaning, wood floor cleaning, deep cleaning, move in, move out. And they have a robust maintenance and renovation department as well. Basically, if your building needs it, they can do it. Call them up at 330-219-7916. Tell them Religiously Incorrect sent you. You will not get a discount, but at least they'll hear our voices. And check them out on Facebook at Phillips Care LLC.
We are also brought to you by Action, the Alliance for Congregational Transformation, influencing our neighborhoods. Listen, right now, if you go to www.actionohio.com, you can put in the application. We are looking for canvassers. We are looking to hire 2 canvassers. The actual application is on our website. It is on our Facebook page. You can even go to my personal page, and I have it there. Please, we're looking for 2 canvassers. We're paying pretty good too. So, so check us out. If you are in for a job, you can walk. You got to be able to walk.
Never mind.
You got to be able to walk.
I was thinking about applying.
Got to be able to walk. Got to be able to have some air. Got to have some breath, some lungs on you. But we are looking for 2 canvassers right now. So check us out.
So, are you discriminating against people who cannot walk?
It would be kind of hard to canvass if you can't walk. I mean, I don't know what you gonna do 2 houses a day?
I'm calling Ben Crump. That's what I'm doing.
Call Johnny Cochran.
Call on Jesus. All right. We have a very special guest. Many of you know that Pastor Jeff and I are Actionites. We are members of Action. I am the president of the board. Pastor Jeff is our lead organizer. And you know how passionate we are about issues that affect our community, advocacy, organizing, making real change in a real way in our community. And we have a very special guest who represents the Gameliel Network that Action is affiliated with. We are an affiliate of the Gameliel Network. And it's just been a pleasure having him here with us this weekend. And I want to have Jeff give a little bit of an introduction, and then we'll dive right into conversation. So by the way, like, share, tag, bring folk in. You know what to do.
Hurry up. We are so excited today to have with us the one of the organizers,
lead organizer,
integrated voter engagement. But I wanted to talk about just all that he's done through the Gameliel Network. I mean, I've been through several trainings, and he's done a phenomenal job. He is some type of organizer, I'm telling you. And not only is he an organizer, he's also a reverend. So he's a preacher too. So he fits right in here with Religiously Incorrect. So give up some cyber hand claps, cyber praises for our friend, Reverend David Gerth.
Reverend Gerth, how you doing?
Well, I wasn't scared when I came in here tonight.
But now
I've been watching you two, and I'm like, now I got to have opinions on popular culture, sports,
everything. The Pythagorean theorem,
ginger ale. I'm for ginger ale.
You're for ginger ale. All right.
Ginger ale. And
I think from ginger ale.
I think if Gatorade sponsors the funeral, the woman comes back.
She comes back. Listen, it just might be a NIL moment for her. It might be an NIL. Thank you for being
I want
with
to say
us.
my grass is cut. I cut it before I left St. Louis on Wednesday.
I'm glad.
Sorry for the local business, but
no, that's okay. We keep them plenty busy.
I'm talking to the councilman now.
We keep them plenty business around here. Love it. Well, thank you for being with us. We really appreciate it. You've been with the Gameliel Network for how long?
Oh Lord, about 20 years. I've been a full-time paid organizer for about 14 years.
So this is where we need to start at ground level.
Yeah.
For our audience's sake, what is organizing and what is the Gameliel Network?
Yeah. So I'll start with actually how I got started, because I was through seminary, wasn't ordained, worked in higher education, kind of was really committed to my work, not really committed to any church. And my wife joined a church, and I kind of tagged along, and they were doing community organizing.
Okay.
And it scratched an itch that I had felt for a long time about I'd been parts of communities where we didn't have enough power to even just get our local elected officials to do what they need to do, let alone
like cut the grass, like that.
Well, in St. Louis, I'd been in neighborhoods where the city owned all the vacant properties,
Oh, yes.
right?
Oh, yes.
And they weren't doing it, and they're still not doing it. So
Let's move on to another subject.
so organizing was a way of us actually starting to move stuff in the neighborhood,
you.
right? So we were, we just were working really, really, really grassroots, just the congregation and the people that lived on the same block, trying to address issues right there in the neighborhood, right? So that was as a lay person, and that involvement, eventually I felt really called to ordained ministry, and I pastored a church, and we built an organization, and I really, all of the things we're going to talk about tonight, I used inside how do we build relationships to focus toward shared call and purpose?
Wow.
And we use them inside the congregation as well as in the wider community. So, that's maybe a quick answer. It is really about who are we called to be, what gets in our way, and how do we move more powerfully together than when we are afraid to move at all, especially by ourselves.
So if you can condense organizing to a definition, it's building relationships
toward community power to exercise.
So you can exercise community powers. Yeah.
In the public world. And and that could be on a block, it could be in a city, it could be in a state. I mean,
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, many of you may not know that actually Barack Obama started out in Gameliel Network
as an organizer. Right.
A long time ago. But now we have Ana Garcia, who is the president. Is that the right word?
Executive director.
Excuse me. The executive director. Because we understand in religious aspects, a lot of churches, a lot of places still don't respect women in that area. How has it been to have her as the executive director? Excuse me. I'm sorry for calling. Excuse me, Ana. I know she might even be watching.
Well, I hope she is. I mean, Ana is Catholic, so even if she wanted to be, and she has a seminary degree, she's not going to be a priest. They're not going to let her. But that doesn't mean that she's not going to exercise her leadership, right? So she's pushed through that. But for us, it was a huge transformation. It was very, very important. She's been at the center of lifting up women's power and leadership in congregations, whether they can preach or not. And so she followed. This is a little inside baseball, right? She followed the founder director, and this was before Trayvon. It was before Ferguson. It was before things started to shift. And in this world, and in a lot of the nonprofit world, people hadn't started. You have a sponsor that says we want black-led, black-serving organization. That wasn't phraseology that was.
That is true,
right? So when
that wasn't being said,
when they put a black woman immigrant in charge of this organization, funders and allies said, well, they must not want to be powerful if they wouldn't have put her in there.
Wow.
You hear what I'm saying? I mean, I think we all have this kind of experience in our community.
So even in the organizing space, the idea that white male dominance is still the path, or was.
It's changed a lot now, but Ana was on the front edge of that.
Right.
And so I think to kind of answer your question, Jeff, I mean, she doesn't back down.
She don't. See, that's the fact.
So I'm proud that she's my boss.
She doesn't back down, and she's came out with us when we went down there to South Carolina. Her daughter was with us. Yeah. So I mean, they're powerful people.
So she won't let me hide, and I know that means that if somebody comes after me, she's got my back.
Right. So I don't want to speak too much Greek to our audience. When we talk about community organizing and you talk about building relationships to push our values, what are a few areas where that occurs? I know it can be a multitude of areas, but what have been some areas?
I mean, here's a simple one. So like Jeff picked me up on Saturday, and I was down in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's one of the communities where our organization has worked a lot on a whole variety of court and policing and criminal justice issues, but particularly on the jail. And Pittsburgh is one of the city jails that has had a rash of deaths inside the jail.
Okay.
And we've got people who have been working on that for a long time. We have people who had worked inside. They knew. But that's not unique.
Wow.
I couldn't tell you how many of our organizations, I know it's certainly true in St. Louis, we've been going after the jail deaths.
Okay.
So I don't think it's a deep value to think that you shouldn't be held on charges in a jail and die.
Right. Not even convicted yet.
Right.
And right.
At the very least. Well, and even if you are convicted, you should. It's not supposed to be a death sentence.
Right.
It's supposed to be time.
Right.
And so that's a dramatic example of how in a local community we may be able to actually wake up the leadership to say whoever is responsible for that is not doing their job. And what's it going to take to get there?
So it takes that sustained effort built through relationships, built through, and those of you that don't know the jargon of organizing, we talk about, well, you're going to hear this a lot, one-on-ones, and building and deciding what the community needs and where the concerns are. And then is it mobilizing people in that direction? How would that translate?
So even tomorrow, we're going to hear here in Warren, we're going to go out and talk to people in the community.
Okay.
And the first thing that we're doing is really listening. What are the primary experiences and issues? We might also say, if we were in Pittsburgh, I don't know what all we're going to talk about tomorrow, but if we were in Pittsburgh, in the community that we're targeting, there are air quality issues because of the steel mills and the coke plant. And a lot of people in that community disproportionately are landing in jail. So we want to listen. Do you have an experience of that?
Wow.
Is this relevant for you? What can we learn from the folks in the door and at their doors? And how do we build power in that community, particularly for us with the congregations that are in that community?
Okay.
Right. And so, so then we start coming together.
Gotcha.
Right. I think even not just mobilizing, but actually shaping what the mobilization is together. Right.
Okay.
Sometimes we do just mobilize. Here's a hot issue. Let's go. Who's willing to come along? But we're one step before that, actually, even right now. Is really listen. How should we be approaching this?
How should we mobilize? How do we shape the mobilization?
Right.
That
and
makes
toward
sense.
What? Right.
That makes sense.
Right.
So one of the things that is really important, especially for us in Action, we have a clergy caucus, but clergy in the organizing field. How do you feel, or how do you, because we have a lot of clergy who watches us. There's a lot of pastors on, and a lot of pastors don't see the value in this organizing arena. What would you say to that?
I mean, I'm going to go back to what I said a second ago. You certainly can build ministry, the strength of your internal ministry by reaching out. But like I said, when I first got to my church, the church I first pastored, I used the same tools. I listened, and I built a team of people to listen to everybody that was in the congregation because I was brand new. And what we heard from the congregation about what the priorities, where they were excited and where they were frustrated, that shaped my whole ministry. And other people do this using other tools. Some of it's intuitive, but there's a discipline also to how we really listen and then pull together what we have heard. And I think a survey for a church building a ministry, a survey tells you some things.
Okay.
But often people will say things like, well, the Sunday school is most important. And for some churches it might be. But it's easy to say that's important, and yet you haven't captured where the real energy in the congregation. The energy might be around the thing that they said was number 3, but that's actually the thing that they're willing to invest in. They want somebody else to do the Sunday school, but the thing that I rank number 3 is what I want to do.
Right.
And I've been doing surveys recently on a couple levels, and I've noticed that. Like, I can only give so many options. These options are coming from my brain, so I probably could have done a better job of maybe shaping the survey, just like you shape mobilization. But people sort of default sometimes when the options are already laid out.
Right.
And they kind of start to do like a quick mind game with themselves.
Or what does the pastor
what does the person want to hear?
Yeah.
What does the surveyor want to hear? What sounds like a good answer? But when you listen to more of an open-ended, it's not even open-ended questions. You ask open-ended questions, but now it's really just out there, go. Right. And then you never know what might come out of that. And sometimes it's surprising, which leads me to, have you ever been in a situation where you are out on a listening tour to discover the needs of the community, and you are surprised and, dare I say, disappointed by what you hear? So let's say you go into it, because this has happened, it's going viral, and of course we know viral can be a skewed experience because weird things go viral. But let's say you go into black communities in Chicago and you run into 15 houses in a row that are ranting about immigrants invading their city. and why are they getting so many benefits and black people are poor and struggling and can't stay on, and they're stuck on it. You know what I mean? And you kind of, do you feel the urge to educate and reset, or tell them, I think you have a misconstrued conception, or maybe you've been in some resources that are not good, or do you just let them speak their piece? And they might be looking at you like, you're an organizer, right? Help us organize these immigrants out of here. You know what I mean? Like, how do you deal with that, like, disappointing results?
Well, I mean, I think it's like anything. Some folks you're just going to move on from, right? But I also think if there's a pattern, then we have to back up and say, well, what are we really hearing here? There's a more vivid example, I think, that happens all the time. If you're in a community where there is over policing, there is also under policing.
Okay.
Right. And so, folks will say, those kids down at the corner, or somebody just, cut my tires up or broke my window out. They want that fixed. They really, really do. But they don't want people hauled off for junk. Right. And so there's tension. And so that's, again, where it's not, sometimes it is just a matter of, hey, did you know this? Did you know this? Did you know this? But more importantly, it's a back and forth. Can we really think about what are the consequences? And at the deepest level, if you can hang at it for a long time, you might need some of both. We may need some less of some kind of policing, and maybe a healthier kind of, how do we address the issues? And throwing more police at it isn't the only thing that we can do, right? So let's think about that together.
Okay. If I could tag one more on there, and I really want to dive in, because we talked about shared values.
Yeah.
But does Gameliel and similar organizing efforts shape the values, and they already have kind of a direction where they'd rather work in? And if what they're hearing in a community is not what they'd rather work in, do they shy from that?
Yeah, it's both. And I think it's very much, again, there's a parallel for a congregation. You don't want to say we're about nothing, or we're about whatever comes along, or we're just going to take a vote and whatever, right? We do have yes, we can tell you what we're for and what we believe in. Gotcha. And we've shaped that together. But it's also dynamic, and it's open to influence, and it's open to, we don't know what's going to happen with this election in November. We can imagine how we might need to respond up to, through it, and on the other side of it, what the issues that we're facing now are not going away. Right. So we have to keep thinking together and listening together and evolving together. So
I got to take a pause and make sure that Alfie sees this OHIO. Do you see this, Alfie? Just want to make sure you see this. I love you, brother. You're my fellow minister.
Both of them? Oh, I forgot I had my own.
Right.
Oh, my goodness.
Love you.
It's on.
It's OHIO all day, and we're coming for you this year. He's our resident Michigan alumni.
I see. Okay. So you knew what that meant.
He's the OG sports hero.
Yeah,
I mean, he really is. He's the elder brother.
Great guy, but just wrong team.
Wrong team. But
so when and I haven't been organizing as long as you have, but I've learned in organizing, and I've watched a lot of people try to just go out and just do these jobs and just, and they never do do a power analysis of what's at stake and who's really making decisions. Can you talk about the power?
What is that? What is
power analysis dynamic?
We were talking about this earlier today. It's what I just said too. Also, who is actually responsible? Here's the metaphor we always use. That there's babies floating down the river, right? Right. So we do want the babies to be pulled out of the river, but who's throwing them in? I mean, that's the simple thing. If there's,
I need a confession to make.
Sorry,
I've been throwing babies in the river for a couple years.
Yeah, I knew somebody was doing it.
Somebody was doing it.
So I mean, we were talking about food deserts, right, and so Action's doing an amazing thing, getting this truck out so people have, you're sort of plugging the gap. We want to keep asking the question, how is it that we have this food? And that's not a simple thing. That's a systemic, deep issue that has not just to do with grocery stores, but economic investment and the decline of industrial jobs in the I don't know. You all know this better than me, but
absolutely
right.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not,
it's a symptom.
If you're not it's a symptom, and it's if you're not that robust, thriving neighborhood that is receiving investments of other types, then you don't even expect. If I was a grocery store owner and you asked me where I wanted to put a grocery store or where I feel I could make the money, or I do my own analysis, which is fair to do as a business person, but the decades of underinvestment, and as we always say, especially in racial dynamics, but it can be class dynamics as well. You know, if America has a cold, black folk got the flu.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the same thing can go for class dynamics.
Right.
So if we've all suffered, you know, economic devastation like we have over the past 40 years, my entire lifetime in Northeast Ohio has been the Rust Belt rusting out, basically. Right. So a lot went away, but most of it went away in certain places.
Yes.
Right.
And most of it has taken the longest, and almost not even knowing if it will ever come back in certain places, unless there's a gentrification or a situation in which the people who endured those years now, which we've seen in bigger cities, of course, can no longer live in the revitalization that comes. Right. And so you're right. It is systemic, and it's hard to explain that. Not that you want to like explain or mansplain or whatever to people, or what's it called? Or explain? What do we do? What do we call it? Or explain? Like, I'm the organizer. I got but people just say, I just want a grocery store and I don't want to go to a Dollar General. Or people have settled for what they have. Right. And it's hard to build the dreaming again and the envisioning again, because now if you look in my generation, I'm a part of the last generation going on 42 next month that remembers West Side grocery stores, and I was just a baby when there was a grocery store on Palmyra Street, you know. I'm the last. So my kids will never know grocery stores in the area of our church, or that entire west side of Warren, for instance, southwest side. They will only know dollar stores. I didn't know what a dollar store was when I was a little kid. It wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? There wasn't a thing.
So here's one of those
funny how that
we were in. We met in Nashville,
right?
And we went and visited in the district where the school district had a competitive seat, and it is a largely black neighborhood that has not been gentrified, but everybody can see it coming,
right?
And so, how do we have enough leverage to make sure that the resources that are coming here are benefiting the people who have been here, not shoving them out,
right?
Yeah. So, well,
but that's a great point of how do you get ahead of the curve,
right?
And how do you share with people, which we're in a very similar situation. Pastor Jeff knows here in Warren, we've got one of those situations where we're starting to see dream-like ideas about how to revitalize very distressed areas. And you're like, yeah, it's all pie in the sky now, but somebody's got some money somewhere, and all the other areas have been kind of saturated. So if you can buy $500 acres of land around here, I'm pretty sure sooner or later somebody's going to swoop in and buy a whole bunch of it.
Absolutely.
And so how do you prepare the people prior to?
Right.
I want to ask a question for those who come out of, especially the African-American church, or when they think about movements or affecting change, they think about the civil rights movement. They think about Martin Luther King and marches and speeches and SCLC and NAACP. How do you see organizing as being either an outgrowth or maybe an evolution of that? Because a lot of people, we're still like march oriented. Something bad happened, organize a protest and a march. We beat somebody into submission temporarily. You know, we get a police officer fired. We do this, we do that. That's honestly still the dynamic that lives in a lot of people's heads, where organizing seems to take a little bit different track, like you said, upstream kind of situations. Where are there tensions with that? Because that's our common understanding of affecting change.
I think we waste a lot of energy not being more strategic. I'll give you a reference. So there's a book called Practical Radicals, and they have a podcast, which I've just started listening to, which is great. Practical Radicals. Okay. The author is Deepak Bhargava.
Okay.
And what they do is they say that movements need 7 approaches. And it's not about whether one is better than the other. It's exactly what you said. There are moments when you need a march. And some organizations are better at marches than others. Some are better at really being disruptive. And they may or may not be long-term. They may be short. They may be people who just are really angry in the moment and they have a gut reaction, but they need behind them the kinds of organizations that can stay on the issues. I'll give you an example. So what I like about the book is that it's kind of, if I can use the word on your podcast.
You can.
Yes, you can.
No, it's not a dirty word. It's just to be agnostic. That is, they're open to the approaches, each having a value. And it's really more powerful if we can say, you know what, we might use that tactic once in a while, but it's really not our thing. but this is our thing, and we need to be really good at it.
Okay.
Right. So, yeah.
But I think one of the tensions that comes to that, and I've experienced this, is that the people who represent the different approaches are not always so friendly with each other.
No, it's absolutely true.
And sometimes down the other approach as opposed to seeing themselves as all a part slices of the same pie. And so it's like, I've lived through this. Some of y'all might even know this. So whatever, I'm tired. So I don't care. I'll wake up in the morning and see what happened. But literally be told that protest is useless. We were doing the legal work in the background anyway. So why are you out there in front of the courthouse? And I'm like, and who wins from that? I mean, that's the thing I think we have to try to. I may completely disagree with your approach. Right. But let me give you some room and let me see what my role related to what you're. So an example of this, the Ferguson uprising was a different set of protesters running the show in front of the Ferguson Police Department night after night, for week after week, for month after month. Mm-hmm. And that shook things up so that at least Ferguson city government, if not the Ferguson city government, knew it was going to have to do something. And city governments all over St. Louis knew if we don't clean it up, they're coming for us. And they would throw on to, like, at least we're not Ferguson. All of that stuff happened, right? So the disruption happened in a very chaotic way, often with the protesters mob, often with one group one night hating the group the next night, right? Right. But it still got where it needed to go. And then the Ferguson Commission started shaping what the actual long-term like the deep study, deep listening, and they shaped hundreds of recommendations. And then grassroots groups that had long staying power started picking up specific elements of that. So all of us had a role, right? So you had that immediate angry response. Some people call it the Malcolm Martin dynamic. You kind of got I'm going to get in your face. I'm going to let you know this is an issue that's not going away. But then you also have some of those more systemic addressing. I think it's actually more sophisticated and subtle even than just Malcolm and Martin, right? Because they both were doing all of that too. Right. And there were a lot of other people that don't show up if we just say it's about the two of them. Right. But yeah, that's right. So like the organization that I was leading through that, MCU in St. Louis, is still focused, at least in part, on juvenile justice and school discipline issues that came out of that disruption and came out of those recommendations. We're still carrying that lane of the work forward 10 years later now. And others are carrying their lanes still. So there was staying power behind the dramatic disruption. Gotcha. That we probably wouldn't have done on our own. Gotcha. We probably were not the ones for that. Okay.
One of the things you said yesterday when I picked you up was you talking about Pittsburgh and how you were in Pittsburgh and how they said that we don't cross bridges. And so now I brought you here, and what they were saying was, we fought about ginger ale. We are not fighting about the differences between Warren and
we've already fought over ginger ale.
Talking about it. But there is,
but that is true.
There's a thing, because you stayed in Youngstown, and I brought you to Warren. I took him past the old GE and General Packard and things of that nature. But you see, it's not that far of a distance, but there is a gap.
Oh yeah, it might as well be an hour away.
Yeah, how do we bring that together? How do you say, we all have the same issue?
So to that point, absolutely. So is there a room for a model? Let's just say the one-on-ones, which are sitting down individually and hearing people out, is a common organizing, probably the primary organizing model of building these relationships. Right. Can there be like a one-on-twos where you start setting up a Warren Youngstown person and you're interviewing the both of them and trying to build that, you know what I mean? Or
there's a million ways to do it. I think it's good. You preached about discipline this morning a little bit, actually, right? So I think that there is a value in having the discipline of doing a one-on-one sort of by the book, being very purist about it's me and you, and I'm really listening hard, and I don't have a preset agenda, but it's not the only way. And you can take some of the elements of that and you can put it into a group workshop. You can put it into a one person talking with three. There's lots of different ways to take the elements and adapt them to the opportunity. Gotcha. But I think it's also good to practice the discipline.
Now, when that's encouraging,
do your scales.
Now, that's encouraging to hear, right? Yeah. One of my fears about organizations of all type, including organizing organizations, community organizations, that they have some of the same characteristics of religion in the church.
Yeah.
Is that they get stuck in their ways.
Yeah.
And so I want to kind of shift and talk about the evolution of organizing, where it's been, where it's at, where it's going. And is there space? Because obviously we're seeing, and I really believe, especially in the Black community, that we suffer when we allow ourselves to be stayed and stagnant, and the world is moving on and we're like stuck in a certain, will there ever be a time when one-on-ones or the Gameliel way or the organizing way that has worked for this many years, like culture shifts, generational shifts, where we start to acknowledge that there needs to be a difference? Because I fear that we've already seen it in some civic and civil organizations. Like, this is what we did. This is what got us over. This was the Dr. King way. This was the way we got this. So this is what we're going to do. Change be damned kind of a situation. Yeah. So do you see any of that? Or is it kind of like there's a way, this is what works, this is what we know, it's proven, so we don't see ourselves moving?
Yeah, I want to try to back up in a minute and talk a little bit about inertia. But to answer your question, I think that things will change in ways that we can't even imagine. I don't think any of us understand how different. I mean, you all are parents. You see this on a daily basis, but I don't think we have any idea how differently the people who are 10 years old today will be leading the world when they're 30 and 40. I don't know. I really don't know. But I will say, though, that I thought that there was more of a shift coming faster. And then this happened. Some of the strongest grassroots groups that operate in very different ways and sometimes kind of get ticked off at each other about methodology and turf and all of that stuff came together about a year and a half ago. And I happened to have been in the meeting. And these are groups that normally would tell only the very best version of their own story in front of each other. Okay. Right. And what everybody said was, we do not have as deep of a base as we had 5 or 10 years ago. Right. We don't have as many leaders of real capacity who are organizing people. We are struggling to recruit and develop organizers from the beginning to the middle to the advanced level. And we are constantly responding to funders who think they know what the campaign is. Wow. And now we have to fit that. So it was this cross the board. And we started at 10 o'clock. I did an hour of introductions and warm up with this group. And by 12:30, the flow charts on the wall said that we all agreed about the things that we were struggling with. So there is a national, it's like a weakness organizing revival that says, yes, the fundamentals are still the fundamentals. We have to keep thinking about how to do them in innovative ways. But if we are not actually investing one-to-one and building real teams that are organized around community issues that rise up from the community instead of from somebody in a think tank, so I think you're right. Okay. And I would just affirm that the fundamentals are still the fundamentals. Okay. Okay. And we have to be creative about how we apply them.
Gotcha.
One of the last year was I think it was a couple years ago, we went to Race and Power because it's coming back this year, correct? And it was probably one of the most powerful trainings I've ever been to, man. Just absolutely phenomenal. But one of the themes that continue to come around, and it's still around, is white Christian nationalism. Yeah. And the uprising of white Christian, and us trying to, combat that. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
It's a crazy thing. I mean, white Christian nationalism in itself is a crazy thing, but from an organizing point of view, a lot of people are like, what's the big deal? This is not new. Why are you talking about this? And then other people are like, if we don't respond right now, we're going to lose the country. Right. So I think both are true. So this goes back to the inertia thing. I think in this short term, between now and November, I keep finding our organizations are struggling to get moving. Our congregations are behind our organizations. People say things like, I was with a group of pastors, and they really were saying, we need to really be preaching about white Christian nationalism in September. And wait, what? In September?
Right.
What are you doing tomorrow?
Right.
And so what I started to realize, anything we can do right now to move ourselves. It may be frustrating, it may be lame, it may be not much, but between now and November, if it's like any other election year, and I think it's going to be more so, things are going to happen that are actually going to stir us to action. And if we are at least moving, we will be ready to not just start from a dead stop. Now, I do think we have to be more strategic. We have to create smart opportunities. But the first thing is get moving.
Okay, so does it feel like that white Christian nationalists, MAGA, all of that?
Yeah.
Does it feel like the traditional organizers are being out organized by them at this point?
Oh, they are operating. What we see is a short-term expression of something that is deep, and ages old.
Right. But I'm seeing things like library, obviously the book bans. We're looking at school board campaigns. It seems like they have insidious different ways of.
Don't you think all of this is still Obama pushback?
Oh, absolutely, I do.
So
absolutely.
I think that we need to be thinking about not only where are we going to be in November, but where are we going to be in January, and where are we going to be in 26, and where are we going to be in 30. It's not too early to start thinking about the census, right? So I don't know that we're getting outmaneuvered. I think we're starting to think longer term. And I don't think that I actually don't think all of this January 6th stuff itself and its legacy are actually all that well organized, really. I think they're reactionaries. What's well organized is this stuff started systematically in 1970 when they were writing documents about how to kill progressive movements.
Right.
And they were killing progressive leaders in the 60s. I think that stuff is deeply well organized. Okay. And that's the structural stuff that these are the outward symptoms of.
Wow.
So here's a tension that exists, and it's becoming more apparent. And honestly, I have to say...
Sorry. And so that's why we can disagree with each other. We can fight like cats and dogs, but we can't let those fights be more important than the real fight.
Right.
I'm struggling with when you mention progressive movements, because we are talking about essentially progressive organizing in a progressive direction. Mm-hmm. That's becoming a more complicated condition in the Black community, because Black people are actually, in some ways, naturally conservative. Mm-hmm. And the progressivism side of us has often centered around race and economic opportunity. But then we see other things attached to the progressive movement, and we're not exactly in favor of it. And I'm watching us, and I don't think these statistics are all fully correct. I think there's a lot of jargon, a lot of loud. Again, if you're a Black conservative, you're just a superstar at this point. That's the way it is. But I feel that even at the ground level, going all the way back to the 2016 election, there is a quiet, I don't want to call majority, but sizable group of people who are like, I'm not with that.
Right.
I'm not with that. And I am the pastor, and I am the church, and I am the Black resident. And I'm speaking specifically of the Black community, and there are others we find in the Latino community who carry a lot of conservative values. And there are Latinos who be anti-immigrant at this point because they see themselves as coming the right way or whatever. How do you wrestle with that, where people are like, I don't want to walk with you because there are other elements and other things that are a part of this, and it kind of scares me away?
First off, I'm glad you called this up, because I think the language I was using is woefully inadequate. Okay. And I think it even reflects the ways in which some of my own thinking is woefully inadequate. Like, it's just, it's what I've got, but I know it's not enough. Right. And again, two things I would say. I think that a lot of the assumptions, and certainly even the notion of progressivism, I think, is laden with white superiority and colonialism. Okay. It certainly can be. Right. It needs to be critiqued. It needs a more powerful alternative. So that's one piece of what you're saying. I think when we're talking about actually conflicting values of what liberation looks like, and I think it seems like maybe you're thinking particularly about things like sexuality or immigration, right? These are just messy. I don't think there's another answer. The thing that I was at a conference and I went to a panel that was led by black men about black men in the election. And they were so clear, not about the tension around sexuality, but look, you are not investing in us as voters. Nobody is investing us in voters.
I agree 1,000%. Mm-hmm. I agree 1,000%.
And they affirmed we are the second most reliable voters for the Democratic Party. And I think that means not only investing, but back to what I was saying before, are we part of actually shaping the agenda, not just shaping the turnout agenda?
Right. Well, I mean, as a pastor, I'm getting tired of getting emails that tell me what I should care about and go tell my congregation to fight for. And I'm like, you didn't come here to talk to me. Absolutely. And honestly, I'm preaching to people who have very varied beliefs.
Right.
And, and justified or not, you can't take away people's beliefs. And I know that there's a lot, because we're in a really crux time in just history, period, where there's just so much shifting so fast. And sometimes it's just the speed of it all that scares people, very much like the civil rights movement. Like overnight, our schools are integrated. People will be like, "Can you give us 10 years, doc?" You know what I mean? And we'll talk about it in 1970. You're going to do this next year. And I think that there's a lot of that going on. It's definitely identity politics, a lot of fear. But I don't even like to call it fear mongering because there are certain effects that we are seeing in our community, and we do believe in the systemic things, but we also believe in societal shifts and changes.
Right.
For instance. Then this is really messy, and just welcome to Religiously Incorrect, y'all. The idea of so many women being platformed is not just offensive from that's a man's job situation, but it also starts to feed that narrative of I'm qualified too, and now I'm not going to be looked at.
Right.
Or it's just their moment right now, so that means it's not my moment. Mm-hmm. And I can't take that away from a person. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like I know what that sounds like, because as a black man, I've gone through that, where affirmative action and different things are weaponized as taking a spot from a white college kid or a job or whatever. But I guess when the shoe's on the other foot, you sympathize a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if we're willing to wrestle with those real feelings, because just because we say, no, that's ignorant, blah, 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 that doesn't just make that feeling go away.
I have a suggestion for a really good guest based on what I'm saying. DeJuan Bland, who's organizing in Detroit, and is a preacher himself. He'd be great on here, but he's been introducing me. I don't know enough about this. That's why you need to ask him about it. But there's this idea of what they're calling long bridging conversations. And it could be useless, frankly. It could be like, can we talk to people that have a different point of view? That could just be nice garbage, right?
Right.
But to get at what you're talking about, it's essential. Mm-hmm. Can I actually have enough respect for you and our shared fight that we can disagree about parts of it and still move together? That doesn't happen without a hard conversation.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
I mean, there was, when I was pastoring in South Bend, Shirley Gaston and I were propositioned to lead the clergy team. I was a brand new pastor. Shirley was a black Pentecostal who formed her own church because the Kojic wasn't going to let her have a pulpit.
Right.
That was Shirley.
Sounds about right.
She was in the community. So she was still good with the Kojic folks.
Right.
She just was going to preach.
Just couldn't. Right.
And so people didn't know what to do when they saw the two of us coming.
Right.
Which was exciting.
Right.
And what we tried to do with our group, which was Catholic, white mainline, and black Pentecostals, was to say, we want to have conversations with each other where we can actually disagree about our theology and our politics at this table, so that when we walk out of that room, anybody who comes after us, it's just like in your family. I get to mess with my little sibling, but you do not.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
You might fight.
And that only happens if you can actually survive some disagreements with each other.
Right.
Absolutely.
Without just being nicey nice.
We got to pull up because it's almost time to go. But I do want to talk to you real quick before we go. Because one of the things you said earlier, Pastor Todd, and I certainly agree with you, is you cannot make a difference where you're not willing to make a deposit. And I think we have to wrestle with that. But I want to talk to you real quick before we went about IV, about integrated voter engagement. Yeah. And what this is looking like, and why is there such a need for it at this time? And I think, we know it, but our audience may not even, every time I say IV, they're like, okay, what's that? And, even when
it's a terrible name. I mean, it describes, but it doesn't convey to someone who hasn't had a long conversation about what it is.
Right.
What we really mean, really mean is that we want to be showing up to the election, not just because someone asked us to show up to the election, but because we're clear about what we want from these candidates and these issues. And that starts, at the very least, it starts in the spring. Right. But it really starts in the off year.
Right.
And so are we really listening and shaping an agenda that we're going to put in front of candidates that they have to respond to, rather than us responding to what their pollsters and their handlers are telling them? The other thing is, we are working on issues like jail deaths. The folks who care about those issues sometimes get themselves into a little think tank, and they can go down to City Hall and talk to the board, but they don't have any muscle underneath them. Those of us who care about our issues have to begin to say, without just sort of saying, well, you need to understand this. We have to take the issues into the community also and connect them to the election so that people say, yeah, you all are on the issue that I care about.
Right.
And I want to get into this. I'll give you another simple example. When you go out and ask, we didn't get to do this in Pittsburgh yet, but I think it will happen. In the shadows of the Coke plant, where there's just sulfur pouring out of the place, right? You can see it and taste it and feel it in your nose. If you ask people, is air quality in your neighborhood an issue? They might say, well, I don't know, because they kind of got to live with it, right? And then if you say, what about asthma in kids? And they're just as likely to say, it's not that bad. And then you say, has anybody in your family been to the hospital in the last 6 months? And then the stories will flow.
Right.
This is the thing that I think you were trying to get at. It's not about, can I teach you about this issue, but can we reflect together about how this issue is impacting you, and maybe bring to light what you've experiencing in a way that begins to politicize it. Wow. And now I'm hungry to find some other people. And if you take this very down to the very basic level, I've knocked doors in lots of neighborhoods on neighborhood issues. And it's not at all unusual for somebody to say, well, I care a lot about this and I've worked on this a long time, but nobody on my block cares.
Right.
And then the next thing is, but you should go talk to Ms. Brown because she might care. When we push ourselves to have a little bit of hope, we actually even start to see. And if you talk to everybody in the block, it turns out 50 to 60 to 70% of the block is actually really sick and tired of what's going on, but haven't found a way to say, we have the power, we have the hope. We should have the hope because we do have the power. It's not empty hope. We can get the police or the mayor or somebody to put the stop sign down, whatever the simple issue is. Right. And then we can see where do we go from there, because now we feel
let's change the subject again, because we have a stop sign controversy.
I really didn't do my homework.
You know what's hilarious is being an organizer activist who's become a public servant. And I do feel conflicted sometimes. I'm like, should I just jump up and start protesting in the middle of this meeting? I mean,
But don't you know also, you can't do everything that needs to get done.
Cannot.
And so it matters who's willing to actually
pay
attention over here.
Right. And the number of times I've said to groups of people, we went through this with our local clergy, if you come down here in numbers, we will move the needle on this very quickly.
Right.
But if someone just comes down here, or I rant about it, or I complain to the mayor, or we get that one-off comment that just kind of sounds unhinged, like a lone voice in the forest somewhere.
I think it was Lyndon Johnson, wasn't he? He said, "You're going to have to push me to do this.
You're going to get more people and come back." You know what I mean, kind of a thing. And sometimes we're trying to tell our people what to end. And I know we're coming to the end. What are the biggest barriers to effective organizing? And want to kind of tack on to that. When you talk about going door to door, and people say, "I'm concerned," or maybe they're not. How much of that has to do with the systemic issues that already affect your life, that make them over busy, overstressed? I would want to, but I don't have the time. I'm working 2 jobs. I'm chasing my kids. I'm impoverished. So I want to kind of tie that together.
I think that actually most of us want more for our own lives, and we don't want to be isolated. I think one of the biggest challenges, I'll just put this through the lens of congregation-based organizing, is that we think that congregations don't matter anymore. Congregations think we don't matter anymore, unless we're kidding ourselves. And what we don't realize is that people are looking for community. They're not looking for membership in They don't want to join your church so that you can put them on some committee where they can't get anybody to do it. But they do want community, and they do want a sense that we move together, and they do want to actually have a sense. They do want to have a sense that God lives not just in the building, but God lives in the community, and we can experience God in this kind of community building, as well as we did in your preaching this morning, and the music, right? And then some of us might say, maybe it is worth going back into church. And some of us in church might say, maybe there's some new ways of doing things, because I do appreciate these folks. That
I wish Leah was on, who's one of her members, part of our generation, and that was part of her testimony, in part, a young lady who is known for activism. And I've kind of made that intentional call that you just said, that there is, of course, I want to see people know Jesus and be saved, and I'm a preacher. That's what I always want that. But I also want people to find community and connection.
Sometimes Jesus is already on the other side of the door.
Already there. And people have responded to that. Or people will say that they've come more for what we do and stand for in the community than the fact that I can get up there and do my thing.
And the connection between the two is really powerful.
Yes. And when you're able to have both alive, I think it can be powerful. So I want to give last word to Pastor Jeff, our lead organizer with Action.
I think this was a great conversation. I think it was well thought out, well talked about. And I think what you said, Pastor Todd, I talked to him yesterday that when we go down to these city council meetings, we can't just speak truth to power, but we have to speak with power.
Yes.
There's a difference. You have to have, you have to have something to say and know how to say what you're saying. So, I think, these elections are coming up, and it starts now.
Yes.
Know your city council, know your county commissioners, know who's in charge, know who you're voting for.
Okay, I'm gonna answer Scott right now as the resident council person. Even though, number one, it's in the township, I know exactly what he's talking about. And here's the funny thing: that stoplight he's talking about is right on the corner of a coke plant that has poisoned all of us for the past 100 years, which is hilarious. But that is a bridge and a blind spot. We can't remove that light. It's a blind spot. Sorry. But I know, trust me, I've lived there my whole life. My grandmother's house is out there. We've been flying up and down that street forever, smelling the sulfur as we go by the coke plant with my asthmatic self.
That's the one next to
that's one Monument? St. James. Yeah, St. James Monument. And my grandmother's house on the other side.
Wasn't a light there? It was never a light there?
No, there's a light by the bridge there by Dover and Maine.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And it's an unnecessary light because there's hardly any traffic until somebody dies.
Okay. Oh, he's saying taking it down.
Take it down.
Okay,
until somebody dies. But
there's two of them in a row.
No, there's only one.
It used to be two in a row.
It used to be one by second. We're having the most unnecessary conversation about things that only two of us know what we're talking about. But I love it. Want to give you last word of thank yous and all that, Pastor Jeff?
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming out. Those of you who are in the Fifth Ward, you will see us out tomorrow. Thank Rosetta Carter, Elder Carter, for being with us.
Mike put the credits up early. He was done. He was ready to go. He already started his car.
We got to go to work.
I'm tired, man. My fault.
We're all tired.
It's been a bad night for me.
I echo Pastor Jeff. Thank you, Reverend Gerth. It's been enlightening. I've been an activist, frontline type person, but the actual nuts and bolts of organizing at a national level and all of the intricacies and the theories behind it is new to me. So this is very interesting. I find it enlightening. I'm definitely a fan. Of course, like everything else, I'm always looking for ways to mold and shape and see what's most effective. But I'm loving how you shared things and the heart you have for people, and looking forward to doing more with Action. Amen. And thank you all that watched. We really appreciate you guys. Looking forward to have an Action meeting for those that are Action affiliated or interested in Action. Tomorrow night, is it 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Action office. Y'all know what to do. It's going to be a wonderful conversation with some information we have going on, some great things happening, and we're really grateful to keep moving forward and making change.
Absolutely.
Making transformation. So until next time, keep following us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, everywhere you listen to audio podcasts. I am going to get some rest. I promise. I won't get some rest while I'm driving, but as soon as I get home, it is 5 o'clock. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Elder Carter. Thank you for correcting us. 5 o'clock at the Action offices on Gypsy Lane. Can't wait to see you all there. Until next time, God bless you.